Hey guys, this is Adrienne with a quick little intro to this week's episode. We're pulling this one out of the hopper. It's one we recorded previously and saved. It's about our time in the Legend Makers, which was a live karaoke band that I started a few years ago, and it was fairly short-lived, largely due to the pandemic, but also due to some other inherent things about being in a live karaoke band. Anyway, we had a very, very busy weekend, which I'm sure we will talk about in the next episode. Between that and him not feeling so great this week, we are going to go ahead and just pull out one of our saved episodes. So here goes what it was like to start and be in the Legend Makers. Shanti is becoming a badly behaved cat in a couple of ways lately. We just caught her trying to sharpen her claws on the bass amp.
Yeah, she
first of all
loves that idea.
I think it's only because it's next to us and she wants to get our attention. I don't think it's about claws. It's about she knows how to do something light to get attention. And then I told you she has lost her privilege of drinking water out of the bathroom sink faucet, which is the only place she wants to drink water out of. She won't drink it out of a bowl.
Right.
Because while you were gone, she unrolled an entire roll of toilet paper in the bathroom.
Just trying to get...
because she wanted to get attention. She wanted to get my attention to turn on the water in the bathroom sink. So now she doesn't get to drink out of the bathroom sink anymore. She even pulled down your towel from the towel rack.
It's an obsession.
Silly cat.
Yeah.
Anyway. Here we are. We're going to talk today about a band that we were both in that was called the Legend Makers.
Yeah.
So this is a band that I thought would be a great idea.
We both did. We had a bunch of discussions. This was before we lived together.
It was 2017.
Yeah, and we would talk on the phone a lot. And we talked about it a lot. We were we were both pretty convinced.
I thought it made a lot of sense.
Right.
So it is, or was, a live karaoke band, which is a concept you may or may not have heard of, but it's basically, it's a band without a lead singer where the guests can come up and sing instead of instead of over a karaoke track, they sing back
by a live
band. So it's just like our showcases in that sense.
Right.
Except there's no rehearsal in advance. And we took it to the next level by playing to a click track and having synchronized lyrics on a couple of monitors, one on the floor and then one on a stand.
Well, so there were a number of things, and let's come back to that just to make it make more sense. First off, the real concept was this wouldn't be, and there are live band karaokes that play venues around town and stuff. The idea with this was to do kind of a next level corporate type thing. So it wasn't just, we weren't going to go play bars and be like, anybody that wants to get up and sing can sing. This was going to be specifically for your corporate retreats and corporate parties.
Right.
And it was going to be a killer band, and it was going to be just, maybe even a bit of a team building exercise that different people were
I forgot about that. I had a whole page on the website.
We had a whole angle we were going to work.
Yeah.
And, you were doing a lot of the work, but, we planned all this stuff where we were, had this angle that it would be like a corporate thing. And it worked a little bit. The pandemic really probably ultimately put the nail in it. Not that it was working that great. So anyway, one of the things we did to take it to that level that is not available if you go do one of the live band karaoke's that's around town was that you figured out how to have the band on both backing tracks on some songs, but more importantly, playing to a click track that was synced to video.
Right.
So that even though the band was live, the lyrics were coming up for the singers on the floor
as if it was
normal karaoke. Yeah. Which, boy, did that add a layer of stress to it. We've talked sometimes. We talked sometimes about playing the backing tracks. We have done it a bunch. We did it in Adrienne O. We do it with Cody. But the additional stress of there being lyrics on the floor and you cannot deviate
Yeah, you can't because then the singer's going to be all confused because you're not playing when like the lyrics are coming up at the wrong time. Plus, you're doing this with inexperienced singers,
Right?
That you haven't rehearsed with,
that you've never met.
Yes.
So it was sometimes pretty stressful, and Ryan, and that's the kind of gig. I mean, there's very few drummers who would make that kind of gig possible because he's just can do it and he's rock solid and he's not going to get off the click. Mm-hmm. But boy, when I had intros and he would be clicking off the intro and you're just like...
Trying to remember how the song goes.
Everybody else hears 1, 2, 3, 4 and all I'm going is, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
I know.
Because you have to start when that count... there's no
going around one more bar to get your patch set or your song in your head. Or
I know I drive Ryan crazy with petty nicks because sometimes I'm like go around again. Like I need to, like I got lost on the, like I didn't get lost, but I need one more time around to really get the tempo. Uh-huh. And but with live band karaoke, where it's about half of it was backing tracks, so it had extra keyboards and backing vocals,
risers, and backing
vocals. all the candy stuff. But it had the lyrics, so you just had to be so exacting. But it was amazing that you worked up the lyric videos and backing tracks for...
It was a lot of work, and especially because in many cases, the karaoke tracks that I purchased were not to a click. Like, They weren't on a grid, so their tempo would fluctuate. So I'd have to chop these things up into little tiny pieces and push them around so that they would be on a grid. And then, fill in the blanks and edit the video so that it would work. Sometimes I would put musical cues on the video so you guys could see them.
That's right. Yeah, guitar solo in 3, 2,
Yeah.
1. Yeah.
Because you weren't listening to the click track. You were only seeing it. So I used that as a little help. So what are some of the stories we have from this band? I have one to begin with.
Okay, go right ahead. Yeah, get into it.
Okay. This was one of our earlier ones. We got a gig at Live at Jack's. It was a corporate party for some global corporation.
I completely forgot about that gig. Anyway, go on.
So this was Alice's, then Kenny's, first gig with us. Uh-huh. And they had to learn a lot of songs because you don't know what's going to be called. So we had about 160 song list. And I told him, I'm going to say him because it was him at the time, that I played bass and I would be happy to take like 10 songs or so to like just reduce the number of songs he had to learn. But what I didn't realize is that I was extremely rusty on bass. This was me starting bass again after not playing for a few years.
Right.
And I could barely even remember where notes were on the fretboard. I hadn't picked up a bass in probably 2 or 3 years at least, if not 4 or 5. I'm not sure. And so one of the songs that I had taken responsibility for got called. It was Alone by Heart. And I messed that thing up so bad.
And it's in a rough key.
So bad.
It's in a rough key.
Is it?
It's in G flat.
Oh, that's right,
yeah.
Yeah. Ryan just kept slamming through it. He was like, I could hear like the song over his drums. Like, I know where we are because Ryan is like, we are playing this song. And I was like, blah, 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 wrong note. I'm just going to sit out. But everybody was... The thing that saves this band is that everybody gets so drunk at these kinds of gigs that it doesn't really matter.
Right.
I mean, it does matter. I mean, quality matters.
Of course it always matters.
But man, that was egg on my face. And I felt like that was a failure I had to come back from, in the sense that like I realized I had some unfounded confidence.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that song is a beast just because of the key it's in.
Yeah, but on bass, it's really not a hard song.
It's not, but like if you're not feeling super familiar with where you are, that's a tough key.
Anyway.
Everything's flats and whatever.
Oh, I have another story from that gig. So Jacob Larson was the backup singer. This is it's not a story.
Oh, you know what? Because Jacob Larson was in Legend Makers. I forgot about that too.
Right.
He was the male vocal in Legend Makers.
Right, because I was a female vocal. He was for backup singing.
That's so funny. I'm remembering so many things. So part of it, in addition to you had the lyrics worked out and the videos going on the screen for the singers, you guys meaning you on female vocal and Jacob on male vocal, were singing backups,
Right.
but also, importantly, you were right there to get people back on.
Right. Right. So we were backups primarily, but if people didn't know where they were or they were singing the wrong notes or singing the wrong time, we would jump over
into lead and guide them back into the song.
Yeah.
And that was, I just can't believe Jacob. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jacob has and I have a Telefunken M80 mic, which is a nice stage mic.
Not anything better.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little under $300.
Yeah.
And for some reason, one of the lead singers was using his mic. Maybe he thought that it was okay. It was just one of the front mics or something. But do you remember this lady, drunk lady, like sang some song awfully and then did a mic drop. Boom. With Jacob's mic. Like held it up and dropped it on the floor. Our jaws just dropped. Oh my God, lady, you just dropped a $300 microphone. That is not cool. Not cool. It turned out that it was fine. I think he still uses it. It's probably the same. I mean, I never heard that it was broken, but I could not believe the audacity.
I would bet that it's just fine. But yeah, there is that weird... Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think you're doing?
There is a certain type of woman who gets to a certain level of having a good time and just does not have respect for anybody else's ownership of stuff.
I would correct you to say that there are certain types of people.
I agree with you.
Uh-huh.
I agree with you totally. I just have fought off a specific type of person who happens to be a woman so many times. I get it how problematic that is to say. I'm not defending what I'm saying. It is just, I know exactly what you're talking about. That you would drop somebody else's equipment, who cares? And like, remember Herbs? This is getting off track of Legend Makers. But how I first was fighting people off from getting on stage because they wanted to make an announcement or talk to people. Mm-hmm. And then we got all the way to the point where when we would take breaks, I would take all the microphones down and put them in my pockets. Because people would just felt free to just get up on stage and Anyway, but yeah, I forgot the mic drop thing. Gosh, that's one of those things that happens. Yeah, I don't really have any great stories. I do remember there were a few. They're not good stories, but they were just musical snafus where we were just all like, no one knows what's happening. Let's just hope this goes well. I remember we were doing some ZZ Top song, and I ended the solo, but Ryan didn't bring the drums down for the end of the solo. Uh-huh. And he's looking at me like, why'd you stop? And I'm like, why didn't you stop?
Oh, no. And you're like, who's right?
And like, do I go back and like try to like tag the ending so that the singer is supposed to go back to the riff? Like the solo's over and it goes back to the music. And we were just like, let's see how this goes. It was just nothing to do but just hang on.
I mean, we played Comcast Holiday Party.
Yeah, right. That went great. That was a really fun night.
That was a really good one.
Yeah.
They loved it. And there were some good singers that came up on stage.
Some great like teams that they kind of, at least at the Comcast thing, they did exactly what the goal was. They had several like 3 and 4 people teams that had worked out little routines.
And we have gotten an inquiry from them every year since.
Right.
Except for the pandemic. I mean, and we played. I think, did we play for them twice?
We did.
Okay, we played their holiday party twice.
Yeah.
Then the pandemic hit, and we didn't play for 2 years. But they inquired. They just canceled because they weren't having the party. And then I think so far, we got an inquiry for last year, 2022.
Right.
We ended up not doing the gig. I don't know if it's because I was upfront with her that we aren't a live. I mean, we can do a dance party.
Right.
We're not maintaining the repertoire. We're not a live karaoke band anymore, so the band doesn't really exist. So maybe that's why.
And that is the big thing. That was maybe the whole thing with how hard that band was to do, was the size of the repertoire.
And people think it's a small repertoire too. They're always like, "Why don't you play my favorite song?"
But
like, we have 200 for you to choose from.
It was literally, average 200. I think my charts and stuff got around 240, 250.
Wow.
I don't know that
I think we dropped songs. So
yeah, and there were some we just never played, so we dropped them. But I was, and that was actually the band that got me, for the music nerds out there, that was the band that got me into amp modeling rather than using real amps. Because, the technology has gotten really good, and it was good at the time. But I was gigging a bunch, and the Legend Makers was kind of looking like it was maybe going to get busy. And I was constantly stressing out, tearing up my pedal board. So, for anybody out there that cares, often you have you have your amp that you maybe set to kind of a neutral thing, and then you've got guitar pedals that will add different sounds and different textures and different effects. And I was always switching that out so I could do all these things. And then we started the Legend Makers thing. And what was interesting with the karaoke was you needed to do stuff really exactly like the recording. Like we do stuff like the recording when we do covers, but with doing live band karaoke, you never know what people are queuing off of. Mm-hmm. You don't know. It might be a little cymbal hit that you'd just be like, what does that even matter whether or not but that's the thing that tells them to start singing. Mm-hmm. Or the little guitar thing, and it sounds exactly like that. So you could play the notes, but it didn't sound exactly like on the recording, so they would just miss the cue. So anyway, that's what got me into the amp modeling thing, which is what amp modeling is a different foot pedal that has a tiny computer inside of it, and it digitally simulates having all these different amps and effects, and it really allowed me to nail all the exact sounds from all those recordings. And I mean nail. I don't know how good of a job I was doing, but I was making an attempt, to have different patches for all these songs, and you could do, well, that's the exact effect from the recording. And
you do really well with that.
Yeah, and it was, usually I do way too much of that, but with Legend Makers, it was really weird when we started doing shows and started doing stuff, and it's like, man, it is amazing what people are queuing off of, that you just, as a musician, not that singers aren't musicians, or karaoke people aren't musicians, but like, the rest of us are counting bars, or we're looking for a chord change, or whatever.
Right.
And there's some little like keyboard flourish that they're like, oh, I go right after the keyboard flourish, and like, that's what you're queuing off of?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that like, if we don't do that little thing, or if the it's a Police song and the guitar doesn't have that like watery chorus sound, like, then it's just they're like, I don't even know what this is, and you're like, you even hear that? Like, it's almost like, and that's what got me into the modeling thing, which I've been doing for 5 years, since 17 or so, and I think it's worked out really good. But that was such an interesting challenge with that band, was like, you really had to do it like the record. And on the other hand, getting that band off the ground, we were just talking somewhat recently, Eric Golden had a big, not poster, but
that's right,
they project the upcoming shows, and my buddy and partner and all that stuff, Eric Golden, songwriting partner and guy I gig with when I can, he's got his first gig at Nieces
coming up soon,
which is a ticketed gig, blah blah blah. It's a step. It's a step, and that's awesome. But so he had this big projected, they were projecting the next shows, and I flipped out and took a picture and sent it to him. But the picture he was using was from
the Kickoff Legend Makers
gig
at Hofbrau,
where this is something that you do with bands. Is part of getting bands going is you need to get some media, I guess, to like,
to prove you exist. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and to get some like kind of information, that is just part of, starting to get a band together. I'm doing it with Jonathan, where it's like, you got to do some stuff where you're like, maybe this, we're just doing this to get video and pictures and whatever. And Eric is still using one of his pictures from that. Actually,
Yeah.
we noticed a lot of people are using media.
I know.
From,
Well, I put together the kickoff gig for the Legend Makers, and I invited like people who used to be in Guitar Villains first,
Right.
not be in, but sing with Guitar Villains, which is a live karaoke band that I was in a few years before
that did
that.
more of a contest format, right?
It was
Usually, not always.
No.
Okay.
Later years when we kept like having reunions, we did contests, but we played regularly, just like at old Chicago downtown. I mean, we played like twice a month, just like regular.
Okay, because I judged one of the things, and
right.
Yeah, that was a long night.
A lot of people singing.
No, they were all great. It was just like, it was
but
very
there was
long.
a dedicated
community
to that. But I was the keyboard player and backup vocalist in that band. Mm-hmm. So I contacted a few of those people who I knew were still singing. I used some Performance High students and just like some network to find
people who normally did showcases and stuff.
Yeah. And put together a kickoff show using them. And I had, I think we had either 3 or 5 cameras, high-def cameras, and 2 photographers.
Right. Did Hans do that? Was that who did the video for that? Hans did.
Yeah. Hans Domkohler.
And that
Timberline.
Yeah, right.
And he did a great job.
We
ended up with a great demo, and then everybody else got the media as well. So everybody who participated got photo and video, and some people are still using that stuff. I'm still using that stuff on Performance High.
Yeah.
Some of the Performance High stuff.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of that is from that
media.
Yeah. And that is, again, part of how you get a band off the ground is you do those things, initial investment, so on and so forth, and you get the media that is like what we wound up with Legend Makers was this little 3-minute video edited together of all these different people doing these different songs. Ian did Slim Shady.
Oh, yeah.
Will the real Slim Shady do?
Yeah,
it was like a crazy variety of music, but you got this great demo reel, and I'm sure that's what attracted business later.
It was pro. It was really good.
It was really pro.
And we were starting to get some traction. In March 2020, we had 2 big corporate gigs.
Right.
If you recall.
Yeah.
It was starting to look like this was going to go somewhere. I was talking to Pat Emerine at Best Bands and Entertainment, and he was interested in booking us. We had just narrowly lost out on a gig there. So it looked like we were just about to make it over that hump of like, we're a going concern now.
Right.
And then the pandemic hit.
And part of it, and why we don't do it, is like to be a going concern. Part of it is that you've got to keep all that material fresh.
Yeah.
To some degree. We have to have some sort of rehearsal, or everybody's got to be spending time polishing. And you can't ask people to do that for free on the idea that a gig might come through.
Yeah.
Because also, you can't have somebody go, hey, we're booking you for a month out, and you're like, oh,
I
crap.
have to review 200 songs.
We have to learn 200 songs and be sure but no one said anything about a gig. So that's kind of where it's like it just wasn't, if you don't have the regular gigs coming in, you can't kind of keep the band.
And just, there was the perspective shift of COVID where for a while we were all doing nothing. Well, I mean, not all of us. Some of us were working very hard, but a lot of us musicians were doing nothing.
Sure.
Not teaching, not gigging. And I had that perspective shift of, I mean, I do need work, but this relaxed pace of life is pretty darn nice. And just when everything started coming back online, I thought, am I going to revive this band? And listening to my gut, I was just like, it is too stressful. Making all those tracks, constantly updating those tracks, having rehearsals to make sure the tracks were in sync with the lyrics and everything was the right levels and worked fine and we could play through it, and just like the stress of the gigs. Like I thought it would be just a raucous, drunken, fun thing to do.
and for us it was not. It was like head on a swivel
on the edge of your seat the entire time. Like, can't relax till the end sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It really was a nervy gig. You were just like, oh God.
They were exhausting.
Oh no. Yeah, it really was. You do 2 or 3 hours with that gig and you'd be like, oh. Like, I've been just panicking. Like, and I know I talk, I'm a panicker, but like, we were just all like, you just had to be on it, on it. There were no, like, okay, I can chill for this one.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there were just no, like...
I'm sorry. I thought we both thought it was a good idea.
It was, and it totally would have worked if we'd been doing enough shows that it would have become second nature.
Yeah.
The idea was solid. The everything was solid about it. We just, it was harder to get it going. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and it seemed like, we could fight this thing through, but...
How do we want to spend our time?
How do we want to spend our time?
Not fully dedicated to this.
And there's probably a lesson in that. I mean, if... I say that in a million ways about music stuff. Like, anything you want to do... And I won't name names here because I don't maybe know like the best examples, but anything you want to do, there's probably someone out there who that's their real passion, and that's who you're up against.
Right.
So let's say you want to do a wedding band and you think it's just going to be easy cash and whatever. There are people out there taking it very seriously. Like maybe it wasn't their original dream or whatever, but like at this point, they're taking it dead serious, and they're really trying to do it. And if you're thinking...
They love playing at weddings. They love the atmosphere of weddings.
And they really love doing it. And if you're just kind of like, I don't like it, but like, maybe I can like hack my way through it and make some cash. It's like, that's a tough road to hoe. Like, you're just... whatever you're doing, you're up against people who are saying, I legitimately want to be doing this. I'm going to put all my effort into it. Mm-hmm. And if you're not willing to really take a real swing at it, then, maybe you need to be honest with yourself and go, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Well, this one was interesting because I thought this was coming from a place, I thought there was a good overlap of financial possibility and synergy with what I already love to do. So
right.
I love to provide people opportunities to perform and to grow as musicians. Right. That's what we spend our lives doing here at Performance High.
Right.
And so I thought this just expands that opportunity out into the wider world outside of the studio. It takes it to people in corporations. It takes it to people in bars and at parties and stuff. And I thought this is just what I already love doing, and it overlaps with a potential high-paying gig. I guess I didn't. So it's not that I was doing it just for the money and didn't really love it. I thought I was going to love it, and I did not love it. It was just enough different for me not to love it.
And that's equally as valid. And that really is the same thing I was saying. Like if you do start doing something you thought you were going to love, and you just don't really enjoy it that much, it's it's not always a bad choice to be like.
I think we should cut this pretty soon, but I think the reason it was different enough for me that I didn't love it was I love our showcases, regardless.
Love them.
Yeah. I'm so proud of everyone.
Most fun.
Oh yeah. Because they are our community, first of all, and they are people who are striving with us. They are taking voice lessons. They are working to get better. They're committed to it. They may not be good now, or they may be good now, whatever it is. They're on a journey with us. Mm-hmm. And in contrast, when we did the Legend Makers, it was a community we weren't connected with each time. And they were people who were not committed to growth in their vocals for the most part. They were just there to drink and have fun, which is fine. That's not a judgment call.
No, that's great.
But I wasn't, proud of the people who came up and sang with us at the Legend Makers the way that I'm proud of the people who do our showcases, because I see them grow every single time.
Yeah.
This was more just like a drunken mess.
Right.
Most of
Sometimes
the time.
it was literally, yeah. And the moments of panic where you're like, okay, this person signed up next, so we're doing this, and yeah, I'm paying attention to doing She's Simply Irresistible, but the next one up is I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston, and then I'm already thinking about getting my head into, we're 3/4 of the way through Simply Irresistible, I'm getting my head into the next one, and then you are emceeing, and you're calling up who's supposed to come up and sing, I Want to Dance with Somebody. And then, oh, they're not here, so let's skip to, and you're like, oh no, like,
Yeah.
not only that's not what I thought was coming next, and not only is this hard, but because of the party atmosphere, they've wandered off.
Yeah.
You know, they signed up to sing right after this person, but now they've wandered off, and then, you know, and not that you guys weren't doing a great job emceeing, it was just like the natural thing, and then they're like, oh, I'm back, I missed my song, and I'm like, oh no, I want to dance with somebody, like, it was like such a panicky, again, if we'd done it to the point that it became second nature, that those sorts of things wouldn't have been a problem, but like you said, for those reasons, you know, it wasn't.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize that we would have had to really commit to playing with this band like every week or every 2 weeks.
Right.
For it to work.
Yeah, and just become like you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah. Because I didn't realize how stressful it would be. And so I didn't realize how much of a commitment it would have had to be to not be stressful.
Right.
And if I had known that, I would have known I didn't want to spend every weekend or every other weekend doing this band.
Yeah. And I think to your point, you know, like it just wasn't, I mean, the band is still our band.
Yeah,
that
it's
was
the same guys.
But when we do a showcase, that's our tribe.
Yeah.
And whatever headaches you got, you don't mind because it's your people, and then it's a little different when
there's
not
rehearsal.
Your people. Yeah, there's rehearsal. So that's the story of how we launched and did a live band karaoke corporate party band.
Yeah. Launched and then
decided not to do. Which is going to happen if you keep doing things. You're going to there's going to be things you're going to, you know, that's not a it's not a bad thing. It's just we did it. We got it on its feet and decided
Nah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
You want to go eat some burgers?
Yeah, let's go eat some burgers.
Okay.
Okay.